Tower Defense X is just one of those games that continues to baffle you at every turn. From going from a simple tower defense game to introducing some of the coolest looking enemies and concepts seen in such a genre is beyond baffling, and I definitely recommend the game to everyone. But despite its amazing array of enemies, abilities, and gimmicks, there's just always gonna be that one which simply fell short. And in our case, that is the Wretched. It is no secret that the Wretched, one of the coolest looking bosses to be introduced to Tower Defense X at a 2024 Halloween event, is a bum. Like, come on, this guy is literally the embodiment of glorified health wall when fighting him. He gives a Calamity a run for his money. This is both frustrating and tragic given how he was supposed to be the fearsome leader of a demonic cult which is now the biggest joke in the community. Like, come on, an old senile titan is way cooler than you, bro. As such, I took it upon myself to rework him with cool mechanics and abilities to really hit the nail in the coffin that he's a legitimate threat. Take note, this is my own personal take without overthinking the stats and balancing, so some points may or may not be adequately balanced by either being too strong or too weak. With that said, let's begin. Straight off the bat, the Wretched just walking in is very anticlimactic given the build-up in Chapter 4. Bro is literally making Advisor, the most stone-faced figure we see in the story, shake and cry with fear. And for what? A Sans Undertale spider AU? Nah, this is getting touched upon. Additionally, the Wretched is just jumping around and shooting sometimes, which is an okay start at best. This guy needs a lot more to him to actually invoke fear. Allow me to introduce you to my take of the Wretched Spawn's first phase. First, the "You're kind and here" part of his theme plays and everything turns darker with more purple-orange lighting than before. As the lyrics go, "you" and "here" and the beat drops, the Wretched jumps in from outside the map and lands near the base. The landing deals a 4-second global stun to all non-air towers, and it's not ignorable. The Wretched lands on the path where he circles around the base and immediately snipes the strongest tower before laughing. This is only avoidable if the player quickly sells the right tower before the Wretched lands or has some expensive baits or life insurance mobsters. Point number 2. The cooldown between all of the Wretched attacks is cut in half. Seriously, bro takes way too long to attack and loses the challenge factor. I'm additionally letting him to use his plasma cannons for 2 extra attacks. One being a spray attack like his machine guns, and the other being a mix of shooting at the towers and the base. I know he can attack the base after his reintroduction in the Battle Pass rework, but it is not nuanced at all and gives him 0 extra personality or threat level unless the player is incredibly slow. At least here the player needs to worry about healing the base and proper tower management. Point number 3. To compensate, the Wretched's main base targeting attack lasts 3 seconds less. Every time he does it, he will also jump across the map and be on a 6 to 7 second cooldown from attacking after landing, but only after the jumping attack. Previous point about cooldown stands. His summoning is still unchanged, except now he utters his lines from the trailers. Arise, O Horde, possessed, corrupted. And the map is surrounded by random enemies from all 4 chapters minus the bosses and mini-bosses. These summons each have 66,666 shield, no matter what they are, and while all their other stats remain mostly unchanged. Maze Guardians now actually rush at towers, while the summoned Seraphs and Corrupted Golden Juggernaut spend less time circling before gunning in. These new enemies and their attack patterns serve as an added layer of difficulty as well as a source of steady cash flow. Point number 4, perhaps the most significant change, and my personal favorite, the Wretched can now use Destructor's Storm Cloud attack. Now, think for a second. The only reason Destructor can even use it in the first place is because he is powered by Calamity energy, which we know the Awakened are also powered by, it's their whole thing. We also know that Dr. Xenon spied on us while we were fighting off the demonic invasion, and by this logic might have gained insight on how to harness the energy in the same way the Wretched and the Awakened did. It would be a cool lore detail that gives more relevance to Xenon's upgrades, the Wretched's power, and even Destructor himself, who deserves a little more love. As for how it works, the Wretched lifts his arms up and conjures a massive storm cloud that fires 10 to 13 bolts of purple lightning targeting the lowest and highest HP towers, as well as the most expensive. What sets this apart from Destructor's attack is the fact that it lasts 2 seconds longer, deals 25% more damage, and when it is done, The Wretched slams his arms down for several huge balls to strike between the targeted towers, dealing large AoE damage and a stun similar to the Engineer's EMP but with much less range. Yes, this stun will kill nearby flying towers, so they need to be away from it before the bolts strike. Don't worry, if you move the air towers far enough away from the cloud, the bolts will not follow them. The Wretched doesn't move at all while doing this, so as long as medics can keep as many towers alive as possible, it is the best moment to get a lot of damage in. And point number 5, the Wretched's jumps take longer to build up, but upon landing will deal an AoE stun to the quadrant of the map he lands on. Obviously any spawn troop or tower he lands on would be instantly crushed to a paste, but that shouldn't be much of an issue given that nobody really places towers out there. So you brought him down to half health. Now you may watch as he quips at you, turns into a snake, digs underground, and nothing changed at all. Nuh-uh, I'm overhauling this too. Point number 1. All his mechanics from the Phase 1 rework carry over minus the jumping. The difference being that his attacks are 35% shorter in duration, but they deal 20% extra damage. Their Storm Cloud also fires just 7 bolts, but the big stun strike happens 1.5 seconds quicker. Point number 2, the Wretched now bars underground far more often, though won't always just pop up in the middle of your ranks to one-shot your stuff, because that's boring, frustrating, and repetitive. Sometimes he'll pop out at the edge of the map to either sniper tower or fire an annoying bullet at your base dealing 3500 damage. He then returns and roams for 4 to 6 seconds, still one-shotting anything he collides into. I would mention that in my rebalance he has 90% collision resistance and 100% melee and fire resistance due to his size and shape. Point number 3, the Wretched can now attack towers on and behind your base walls due to being closer. No more of support towers being completely safe. Though he only fires a few shots from his plasma cannon, so don't worry, he doesn't just wipe everything out. Point number 4, the Wretched can also jump scare your towers now by opening its faceplates and screaming, dealing 2500 AoE damage to busted eardrums and hernias in a small area. The stun from the scare lasts 5 seconds and has a very short windup. If you're to check his model, you can see that he has faceplates with the skull behind them, so this mechanic just makes sense to be added. It was supposed to be added in after all, but they just never bothered to. Now, Phase 2 did not receive a big rework because a lot was saved for this part. It's a completely fan-made concept, but I believe we need it. The GJ's upload of the Wretched stream has one last short segment where everything goes crazy near the end, which led to speculation that the Wretched would have 3 phases. That ended up not being the case, which was a letdown for us who expected him to open his faceplates up like in the trailer, which is the ability I give him in the second phase. As such, given the frantic and short-lived nature of the last bit of his theme, I am shaping my take on the third phase to be a race against the time, much like when Corrupted Apex Predator opens fire on your base. Point number 1. Upon reaching 20% HP, the Wretched's faceplates burst open and he keels over, followed by everything going dark and... Yeah, I know they did it with Corrupted Eradicator Mark II, but the Wretched is also a worthy candidate of having a player-directed jump scare. This jump scare acts much like Corrupted Mark II's, except it applies a 3-second global stun and deals 1500 damage to all towers. As everything also starts turning red, the ground also begins to shake. The Wretched has burrowed underground, and rises to coil itself around the center of the tower of your base, killing every tower within the walls and rendering the area unable to have new towers placed there. Your supports are now gone until repositioned, with the center of your base being compromised. As that happens, the Wretched stays coiled around your tower and just starts beating it down with its fists, dealing 1500 damage in bursts of 3 every 2.5 seconds. You have to kill him quickly before he destroys the base. Meanwhile, you're being surrounded from every direction as both Calamity's minions and awakened enemies appear in one massive infinite horde, creeping slowly towards your towers. You have to micro-targeting to kill the Wretched with high DPS while having a few other towers to keep the horde at bay. Assuming that you survive and you do not get overwhelmed, the Wretched will explode from its chest once it reaches 0 HP and scream out his usual "No, how did I lose? I can't fly" monologues before his body breaks off from his arms embedded in the tower and he crashes down on top of a wall, face planting and flopping over. The shaking and red atmosphere vanishes, and all the Calamity minions die, leaving just the awakened ones to be shredded by your DPS, bringing the invasion to a close. Now, I would like to reiterate, this rework was done without much care for balancing, and as such I might have stated some points that are either too strong or too weak considering the current state of the game. However, I figured that I wanted to go all in on making this boss as intimidating as possible, given the premise of him being a mechanical spider commander, as well as relying a lot more on his inherent demonic and technological abilities in order to pose a threat. I know that in the past he was compared to being as strong, if not stronger than the Void, but I wanted to keep the Void as being the guy that aura farms with his godly powers, while the Wretched is more of a technological monstrosity that will relish at every opportunity to do unfair attacks, but also while not carrying an overwhelming sense of complete loss and keeping the balance in check. As for the resistances I mentioned before, those are the only ones I genuinely took into accountability, those being his fire, collision, and melee resistance. However, all the others remain unchanged, and if you guys have any ideas on how resistances could be better incorporated to him, I would really like to hear them out. Now naturally, with all of these extra attacks, you might be wondering whether it's a little bit too challenging to take him down instantly, and to that I might just propose a health nerf of about 1 million, just in case some people are a little slower than others. However, that's not something I'm heavily inclined towards because this rework was more so oriented for the Nightmare players. Players on normal mode don't really need to have too much of a hard time. The stats can just remain the same, except slightly toned down, minus a few of the under gimmicks. I don't know, I didn't put much thought into normal mode, this was mostly for Nightmare mode players. But anyways, thank you so much for listening me rant about a very mid-boss in this tower defense game. If you guys perhaps want more videos like this, just hit the subscribe button, and that's about it. You can leave a comment if you want to, but really, the subscribe button is really all that matters. Anyways, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.